hello to all my BC WrestlePod nerds out there, and welcome to another episode of the Takedown Troop, your weekly TNA Wrestling Post-Show Breakdown here at BC WrestlePod. My name is Mikey, El Jefe of BC WrestlePod, and as you can see, I'm going to be rocking it solito tonight, but that's okay. My other co-hosts are either down for the count due to illness or are busy with other things that they have to take care of. But I am here to give you my thoughts on TNA wrestling, specifically the February 5th edition of TNA. So before I give my beginning thoughts, to kind of go over the housekeeping, if you will, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick is where you can find us live. On YouTube is also where you can find the edited reviews that go up a day after the live stream for all of these things. So this is going to be a lot of fun. If you are looking for something more self-contained, you can go to our social medias at BC WrestlePod. We're pretty much on every social media site, and there you can find our report cards for the weekly shows, previews of the weekly shows, predictions for pay-per-views, report cards of pay-per-views, and clips of parts of our lives that, are talking points that we want to put out there because it's a lot of fun. So we also have some merchandise available for you at our shop at BC WrestlePod shop.fourthwall.com. And last but certainly not least, we pay for a lot of streaming services and we pay for pay-per-view. So to help us out, if you would feel so kindly to do so, we have a coffee bot where you can buy BC WrestlePod a coffee or Kofi, however you want to call it. And that little bot, that little friendo will be popping up in the chat of Twitch and YouTube ever so often. So if you feel inclined to do so, you may go ahead and do that. But if not, that is okay. We know that times are tough right now. All right, now that we got the pleasantries out of the way, let's just dive into why we're here. So I want to shout out my friend Nick from the Nick Wrestling Happy Hour podcast. I was on his show as a call-in earlier today. Love him and Nikki. They are great folks. Please go check out their stuff. They are fantastic. And I was talking to him about how over the last year or two in general, we as wrestling fans are kind of like becoming more vocal and pushing back when the product that we watch is kind of mediocre. And this is coming from someone who reviews TNA wrestling on a weekly basis with my crew. Now, I will forever and a day love TNA, and I will continue to watch and support them and talk about them because I think they are fantastic and they are fun. However, we need to start seeing some changes because now we're in a transition period. We are building from the ground up at this point, but there are certain things that TNA needs to kind of change if they're going to be able to make it through the end of the year. And I know it's easy for everyone to dunk on TNA. Hell, I have BC WrestlePod hosts talk about TNA and make fun of us who cover TNA. And honestly, sometimes it's valid because TNA shoots themselves in the foot, so to speak. The reason I bring this up is because this episode showcases some of the lingering questions that I have when it comes to TNA booking and decision making. And I honestly don't know where we're going with some of these things. Now, not all of it was bad because there are some stuff that I really did enjoy about this particular episode. But going from last week to this week, this is definitely a downgrade. I don't know what happened, why we are going the directions that we are, and I'm definitely going to talk about those when we get to certain points. But as always here, let us know your thoughts in the comments as we go about through this. So let us get started. We kick things off with Trey Miguel in action. So I'm going to be saying this a lot of this particular episode. There are going to be a lot of squash matches here. So if that's not necessarily your cup of tea, then I apologize. But Trey Miguel is in action up to kick off the show. We end up getting Trey Miguel coming through the ring, and he takes on Adam Brooks. So this is, I don't want to say it's a squash match because this match actually went through 1.5 commercial breaks on TNA Plus. So we did get some good action here. I actually thought this was a pretty solid match. I am very unfamiliar with Adam Brooks. We got to learn a little bit about him. He's from Australia. So the Aussies are out here once again showing that professional wrestling is really good. And I really enjoyed Adam Brooks' presentation. Of course, I'm a sucker for Trey Miguel. I think Trey Miguel is very talented. A couple weeks ago, we already discussed, the whole thing that has transpired with him being released from AEW and coming back to TNA. And I thought this was a really fun match. Now, obviously, Trey Miguel has a TNA International Championship match on the horizon as he was the winner of that particular briefcase and Feast or Fired. And so this was a really fun match. I thought Adam Brooks looked really good here, but ultimately it would be a combination of a Poison Rana and a kick that would allow Trey Miguel to pick up the victory here. After the match, however, is when things get a little for me because afterwards we have our TNA International Champion, NXT star Stacks Channing Lorenzo come it down to the ring, blindside, and attack Trey Miguel. And of course, NXT star and Santino Morella's daughter, Ariana Grace, is very upset with Stacks and how he is doing this and being a heel and things like that. This is where things kind of start for me in terms of where I have issues with TNA right now. And that's one of these things. Since having a working relationship with NXT doesn't really, I don't want to say they don't send their best because that's not fair to say, but it's very one-sided. NXT got to hold not only the TNA championship, but they got to hold out the knockouts championship. We've got to see NXT stars go over our TNA folks at TNA pay-per-views and on the shows, which is kind of crazy to see. And so I'm not really vibing with this feud. Now, originally, I thought we would see Steve Macklin fight Stacks and kind of try to get it back. We're going to talk about Steve Macklin in a little bit because I'm very confused in the direction that we're going. But we are going to be talking about Stacks and Trey Miguel a little bit later. But yeah, Ariana Grace is not happy with Stacks. Stacks is attacking Trey and blindsided him here, and we move on with our lives. So after this little segment of after the first match and the post-match beatdown, not breakdown, we have Gia Miller interview our three girls who will be participating in a 6 knockout tag team match later in the show. So this is the Angel Warriors and Indy Hartwell. Of course, the Angel Warriors being made up of Zaya Brookside and our current TNA Knockouts champion, Lei Lee. This was a little cringe, I'm not going to lie. But you know what? Honestly, I'm normally the type of person who is here for cringe and like things to kind of be hokey. I thought the execution was a little bit desired. I do think that what they were trying to go for actually made sense to me. And I did like the banter between the Angel Warriors and Indy, but I feel like there were some pacing issues in terms of like how we delivered the promo and in this interview, but ultimately this sets up our baby faces for what we are going to go through win our main event, but more on that when we get there. But all we learned from this promo is that the Angel Warriors and Indy Hartwell are ready for the Elegance brand. We get into our second squash match of the night. This is the Righteous is in action. So the Righteous take on the team of Tommy Two Scoops and TW3. And this match doesn't go for too long. We get about 7 minutes where the Righteous do end up picking the victory here. So the match itself was fine. It served its purpose. But it was what was said afterwards in the promo that this is where I also have questions, not necessarily about what the Righteous said. So the Righteous said in their promo that they don't want a war with the Hardys. They actually want to work with them. And I get that they are the quote unquote heels in this, but damn, man, everywhere they go with TNA right now, because it's the Hardys and the Hardys are beloved by everyone in the wrestling community and wrestling fans are hardcore, die love them, they always get booed out the building. Well, not necessarily like actually booed out the building, but they never get the audience to be quiet enough for them to cut the promos. And I'm starting to get really irritated with that. I know we're talking about professional wrestling and it's not that deep, but I don't know how much I like the Righteous and I like the Hardys. I really do like both teams, but the fans have kind of started to annoy me when it comes to them and the Righteous in the sense that because it's the Hardys, this is going to sound really stupid because we're talking about professional wrestling entertainment, but I need people to give like the common courtesy of allowing the Righteous to cut a promo because Albuquerque was not letting the Righteous talk. And so they want to work with the Hardys. And again, the Hardys are well loved by the wrestling community, but I need people to kind of start toning it down for them because I'm afraid that if this continues and the Righteous are always going to get booed, especially because if the Righteous are going to be slated to take the tag titles from the Hardys eventually, the crowd needs to stop letting the nostalgia of the Hardys kind of prevent progress and development. The Hardys can always get the titles back, but we need new tag team champions, in my personal opinion. The Hardys have gone through every single tag team on the roster in the last year and a half. The Righteous were brand new, and they beat the Righteous at Genesis. And so now, once again, we find ourselves in the middle of the tag team division of TNA. The Hardys have beaten every single team. They even beaten NXT tag teams. So at this point, the Hardys should lose the titles. I'm ready to see some new tag team champs and, some reinvigoration of the tag team division. We're going to talk more about the Hardys and the Righteous later because they are scheduled to both appear at No Surrender next week. But speaking of the Hardys, we cut to outside of the arena where Jeff and Matt are talking about working with the Righteous. They're not really too keen on that idea. They know and that the Righteous are probably playing mind games, that it's not going to go anywhere. And then the system come in. They tell the Hardys that, they shouldn't be worried about the Righteous. They should be worried about the system because the system is going to take the tag team championships. And Matthew and Jeffrey get beat up by the system 2.0. Very weird because, I'm just like, okay, the system want the tag team championships. Cool. Why? I don't understand. So I like the new system because again, we have heels. And I do like the makeup of this current system. I mean, of course, you have Edward Edwards and Brian Myers. And then, of course, the new members of Cedric Alexander and our personal fave, Bear Bronson, who we love here at BC Wrestle Pod. I just don't like how we quickly pivoted away that, oh, yeah, the system's going to come for the tag titles. I'm like, why? Y'all haven't fought in any type of feud or storyline to get to this point. Y'all were fighting. Well, first at Genesis, we were doing the JDC retirement tour. And then before that, y'all were in a feud with Order 4, which had nowhere near the tag titles, and I don't understand. But we're going to talk more about all this because this comes back around at the very end of the show and sets up some stuff that is happening next week. But after we see Matthew and Jeffrey get attacked by the system, we get into the first non-squash match of the night, and honestly, I kind of dug this match. So this was a mixed tag team match where we saw the team of Elijah and one of our newest knockouts in the knockouts division, Jada Stone, taking on the team of Order 4, being represented by Mustafa Ali and Tasha Steeles. I actually really enjoyed this match. And one of my biggest complaints was finally rectified tonight because not only myself, but I know Papa and Radio Will, and even JT when he was here, we all agree that Tasha should start to get back into the ring because we want to see Tasha wrestle again. We know she can wrestle. And I don't know why Order 4 the creative team has just had Tasha be a background character, but it was really nice to see her back in action. Her and Jada squad up. I liked Elijah and Tasha. I like this mixed tag team match was a lot of fun. Was it something that I'm going to remember and say that it was a 5-star classic? No, this was nowhere near like a 5-star classic for me. But I still thought this was enjoyable. And honestly, this was definitely one of the more positive things about this particular episode because this was not a squash match. This was actually a match between two teams. I just still have questions as to why Elijah and Mustafa Ali are feuding outside of, getting hit with a guitar by Mustafa Ali and then Ali getting his match costed by Elijah. The makeup of the feud is not necessarily my cup of tea, but I am glad that with this one, they are trying to create a story and create a feud. And ultimately, it would be Order 4 that picks up the victory over Elijah and Jada Stone. And I had a good time with this, so I can't really complain. Oh boy, here we go. So after this match, we cut backstage where we see Santino talking to his daughter, Ariana Grace. And Ariana literally pulls the emotional manipulation because her and Santino are trying to fix their relationship. Santino's trying to fix the relationship with Stax, who Ariana is dating and blah, blah, blah. And Ariana and Santino are trying to repair the relationships. This chick pulls out the emotional manipulation saying, well, you missed like my sweet 16 and you missed these moments because you were on the road doing wrestling stuff. And Santino's just like, you know what? I'm gonna make it right. Girl, bye. I was like, I cannot believe this. And this is one of the things that I was talking about last week too. I know that baby faces are supposed to be inherently good in terms of character and story and things like that. They lean more towards the good side than the bad side. However, TNA, what I don't understand is, and you guys do this frequently, and I know there's the other US promotions are at fault for this too, but you guys do it more often, at least within the last couple of months. Why do we make our baby faces stupid? You can make them gullible, sure, in certain cases, but I'm like, Santino has been in this business, long enough. If you're going to have his daughter emotionally manipulate him for a title match, there are ways that you could go about it that don't make Santino look stupid. Like, we haven't seen any inciting incidences where Santino has made a decision or done something that truly hurts Ariana and hurts her. And Santino hasn't been shown to be on a level where, oh my gosh, I messed up. I need to rectify this. Here, baby, let me give you a title match to help you. Ariana is just pulling the emotional manipulation without the downfall. And it's kind of stupid and it's making Santino look stupid. And I know that's the whole point. Baby faces do not need to be stupid all the time. Baby faces can be smart when it comes to certain things. But for Ariana Grace Girl, it worked in your favor, and I'm going to talk about you in a little bit because I'm waiting until we get to Miss Daria. Which, speaking of which, Daria Ray is shown backstage, and she addresses No Surrender. And I have questions, TNA. This is where the show got really weird and really bad for me because Daria announces 4 matches that have been made for No Surrender, the next pay-per-view for TNA, which is next Friday on the 13th. And looking at the 4 matches that we have so far, I got some questions, Daria. So let me run through this card really quickly. So we are getting Stax and Trey Miguel for the International Championship for No Surrender. So I'm like, okay, cool. Makes sense. Trey Miguel has the title shot. He's getting that match at No Surrender. Should be fine. I kind of want Trey to win it, but get the feeling that Stax is going to keep the title, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. Then we see tag team. Ariana Grace is getting a TNA Knockouts Championship match against Laying Lee at No Surrender. Not really vibing with it. I think Laying Lee is going to hold it. If they give it to Ariana, I'm actually going to kind of be mad, but it is what it is. So that one, I was like, I have some questions, but you know what? It is what it is. Then we get the Hardys and the Righteous versus Order 4. So we established that the Hardys aren't necessarily on good terms with the Righteous. They verbally said in a promo earlier in the show that they kind of don't want to work with them. And now they're in a match with the Righteous and they're going up against Order 4, who none of these teams have really interacted with over the last couple of months. Make it make sense, TNA. So that is where the big question started to come into my mind. But the biggest question mark that I have is what Daria announces. Mike Santana and Leon Slater versus Edward Edwards and Nick Nemeth. What? How the heck does this make sense? So Mike Santana going up against Nick Nemeth and Edward Edwards makes sense because Eddie has the fired case with the TNA World Championship match. Nick Nemeth has the Call Your Shot gauntlet. And so those two could come after Mike at any time. Leon Slater being put in here, I'm just trying to figure out. And I know the option C was mentioned on this episode. And for those of you who don't know, option C is a championship option where if you are the current TNA X Division champion, you can vacate the X Division championship and get a TNA World title match in exchange for vacating the championship. So the story being here is that will Leon Slater cash it in? And then Mike has challengers from all sides, which is cool and everything. But why are we announcing this match if we're not sure if Leon Slater is going to be there? Because Leon Slater is still having visa issues as well as Danny Luna. So our UK talent is still stuck in the UK, and I'm just trying to figure out what the flip are we doing. So I'm a little worried that TNA announced its match, and then it's not going to happen. So we'll see next Friday what happens. We're going to see if Leon Slater shows up. That match is going to happen as scheduled, but time will tell. So I'm going to watch No Surrender. We are going to cover No Surrender, but I'm just like, I'm not really vibing with it right now, and I'm a little worried. So I actually really like the Steve Macklin promo we got because Steve Macklin is saying goodbye to some of the TNA locker room. Of course, he got the fired briefcase from Feast and Fired. And so Santino allowed him into the building to say goodbye. So Macklin cuts a promo how he says he loves the TNA locker room. And, he brought up some real life stuff like TNA was always made to be a joke. but he believed in it. He loved it, and he's going to miss this place. Steve Macklin walks towards one of the exit doors where Mike Santana is waiting for him. Mike gives Macklin his props. He thanks him, gives him a hug. Mike is walking away. Macklin is going through the door. Macklin turns around and starts attacking Santana. I have some big questions, because if this is truly it and Macklin is actually fired, because like I read somewhere, and shout out to Fightful and the TNA post show over there and everybody on the team. Like Max signed an extended contract to TNA. So if that's the case, why are we acting like he's not going to stay? If this is truly it, why attack Santana on the way out if he's not if there's not going to be any follow up? But whatever. So Mike is mad. We're gonna hear from Mike later in the show, but we got to move on. So I have questions. Is Macklin truly gone? I don't think so. But if he is really gone and this is all, then I'm like, why is he attacking Mike if there's not going to be any follow up? TNA, make it make sense, bestie. Make it make sense. Tessa Blanchard wins her squash match against Rachel Leigh. We move on with our lives. Okay, I kind of really dug this one. So of course we have this weird feud with Mara Sade and Ryan Nemeth. You know, they're out of college, they are doing different sports to try to one up each other. Mara Sade is proving that she's the better all around her. Oh my goodness, excuse me. It's been a long day. And Mara Sade ends up winning, and I'm so like, I hope we're done with this. I'm done with this feud. Nobody wants this. I didn't want this, and we move on with our lives. Had I not watched this episode, and if I were to just show people this picture, you would think this was the start of some spicy film. But no, BDE is in the parking lot, backstage, outside the arena of TNA. He is, on his phone, checking the social medias. Eric Young comes up and tries to persuade BDE to join the Cleanse. Still really hate that name, but you know what? We got to report on it, unfortunately. BDE is like, nah, I know what you're selling. I don't want any of it. We're done. And then Eric Young gets aggressive, and it looks like this man is about to kidnap a whole person in this picture. Eric Young gets very upset with BDE, tells him he has no idea what he's, denying, but he's going to give him one more chance. So next week, BDE has to tell Eric Young whether he is in or out, and I am scared for BDE. Lord, this is such a weird thing. What are we doing, TNA? This is so weird, man. But whatever. This match was really good. I actually really like this match. So we get the Angel Warriors versus and Indy Hartwell versus the Elegance brand. Of course, this is Ash by Elegance's in-ring return match. Again, back in September at Victory Road, she vacated the Knockouts Championship. We didn't know she was going to be able to wrestle again, but doctors have given her all the tests, and she has cleared all the protocols to return to the ring. So I am excited to see Ash back into the ring. We love Ash by Elegance here. I know a lot of people don't like her and don't think she's a good wrestler or hate her character, and I understand those points. But we have a bias here with Ash by Elegance because she is the first wrestler to allow us to here at BC WrestlePod. She was our first interview as our whole entire team, with our entire team, and she's fantastic. We love you, Ash. You are great. You are so good. Girl, keep it up. I really like this match, and I do love that the Elegance brand, once again, are pulling shenanigans and working as a trio. But the Angel Warriors and Indy Hartwell, we're not backing down, and ultimately, they would end up picking the victory over the Elegance brand. However, the Elegance brand, we're not going to go quietly, as Ash, M by Elegance, and Heather by Elegance attack Indy, Zaya, Laying Lee afterwards, and the Elegance brand sent a message, and they were standing tall over the baby faces by the end of this match. So it seems that we might be on a collision course with Laying Lee and Ash by Elegance having a rematch. We might see, I don't know if Indy and Zaya are going to team up or the Angel Warriors are going to go, but we might see a feud for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. I am glad, and this is one of the positive points of this particular episode for me. While it was not necessarily the cleanest setup, at least we have some sort of direction where we're going with the Knockouts division, because Lord knows we needed it since November, because it's been a hot mess for our Knockouts division. But we leave this match because then we get into what closes out the show. Mike Santana comes to the ring, and he initially starts cutting a promo how he wants to tell Steve Macklin to get his ass in the ring, and he wants to settle the score with Macklin. He only thinking some punk ass shit that he got attacked or whatever. But then the system come out. So that, again, the system is Brian Myers, Edward Edwards, Cedric Alexander, and Bear Bronson. They attack Mike Santana. The Hardys come down to try to make the save, but that doesn't work out for them as they're getting beat up. And then we get the return of Moose, who was ousted from the system 2 weeks ago. Moose evens the odds. The system run away. And we are getting an 8-man tag team match where it is Mike Santana, the Hardys, and Moose versus the system. I think on paper, the match is going to be good, but I'm trying to understand if you are having the Hardys team with Mike Santana and Moose, and they're going up against the system, why are the Hardys teaming with the Righteous and going up against Order 4 at No Surrender? Like, I don't understand the story. I don't know why we're making these decisions. And honestly, I have a sneaking suspicion that here's the thing. I always end up having a really bad feeling about these TNA, like outside of their big four pay-per-views of Genesis, Slammiversary, Bound for Glory, and Rebellion, and the B level pay-per-views, which are the TNA plus exclusive pay-per-views. I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, I always have a bad feeling. I end up liking the shows, but they always do such a crappy job building up to it. I was just like, make it make sense. That's my biggest thing with TNA right now. Please make these stories make sense because I don't understand what we're doing, how we got here, but it is what it is. So again, we end the show with Moose, the Hardys, and Mike Santana standing tall in the ring with the system on the ramp, setting up for the 8-person next week. And that is it. That is all she wrote for TNA Wrestling. And that has been the Takedown Troop review for the February 5th edition of TNA Wrestling. Overall, again, I feel like there was a lot of questions that I had. I did like some stuff. Ultimately, I gave this particular episode of TNA a B+, citing in my report card that, there was some good stuff. We are setting up some things, not just for No Surrender, but we're also setting up things for the future. And ultimately, this wasn't a flashy episode. I really enjoyed last week's a lot better than I did this week. But this show did have a purpose in setting some stuff up. I just have lots of questions. And please fix your stories, TNA, because I love you, but we need to get it together. But that's going to be it for me here at the Takedown Troop. We got one more thing coming up this week, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Pacific or 7:30, depending on what time I get home from my duties. I will be here doing a live watch along for MLW's Battle Riot 8. And you might be wondering to yourself, Mikey, that aired on Thursday. I was like, yes, it was. But I already had other obligations on Thursday, and I'm going to be doing a watch along still for it because I do want to cover MLW and I love and support it. So I will be here Saturday night doing a live watch along, and I cannot wait to do that with all of you at home. But that's going to be it for me here at Takedown Troop. We will be back next Friday to not only review the Go Home show, but we will be making our predictions for No Surrender as it currently is happening while we're on the air like normally these Friday pay-per-views for TNA does. But we're still going to do it nonetheless, and hopefully the whole crew will be able to join me. But from all of us here at BC WrestlePod to you at home, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We'll catch you on the flip side, but until then, sayonara, adios, and until next time, peace.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.